Good morning, everyone. This is Julie McDonald with Microcom Technologies. I'd like to thank all of you for attending today's webinar. Today's host is Jason Hayes. He is their National Account Manager. He'll be presenting, and if anyone has any questions, please feel free to submit them in the question box, and Jason will answer them at the end of today's presentation. Jason, welcome to 2019. Thank you so much for being with us today. Appreciate it. I am finished for now. Go ahead and take it on over.
Thank you, Julie. Always a pleasure to be here. Happy New Year, everyone. I hope you all had an amazing holiday, and we're looking forward to a very positive and productive 2019 for sure. So as you can see on my screen here, today we're talking about boosting indoor cellular coverage, specifically for small office, home office options. I wanted to introduce this by just talking a little bit, very briefly, about some of the different causes for poor signal inside a building, because believe it or not, one of our biggest obstacles in this industry still to this day is awareness. If you were to stand outside of a Walmart or a Home Depot and stop 100 people and ask them what they can do to remedy poor cellular service in their home or in their office or anywhere really, most of them wouldn't say, I'll just buy a cell phone signal booster. Most of them would say something like, well, switch carriers or this or that. And so most of our target audience are simply unaware that there's a solution out there that can really remedy this problem for them, regardless of the carrier and regardless of what type of phone they have or what type of device they're using. So that's one of our big things. But when we're talking specifically on the small office, home office front, there are basically three main things that can cause a disruption or poor cell signal, slow data rates and dropped calls, that kind of thing. And most of it doesn't always have to do with the carrier. It usually comes down to either you're very rural or remote. In other words, your proximity to the cell tower is usually, far away. The other thing that can happen is even if you're relatively close to a cell tower, there can be different obstacles in the way, whether those be hills and mountains or even a lot of trees, or even if you're in an urban jungle and you've got a lot of high-rise buildings between you and the tower, that can really mess with things. And then the other thing is the building materials of the actual home or office that you may be occupying, whether that means you have a metal roof or you're in a building with just a lot of concrete. Just a lot of the building materials that are used today, even down to radiant barriers and windows to make them more energy efficient. Those can have metallic window tint or this kind of thing that can block cell phone signal. So all of these things can really hinder it, and that's why we've really started over the last 5 or 6 years to see more of a need for these types of products everywhere, not just in a remote cabin setting or, out in the rural countryside. These are really becoming a big necessity all over the place. So without further ado, let me just jump right into this by talking about some of the options that we can offer customers for residential or small office areas. And this is kind of the lineup that I'm going to be talking about today. We consider all of these solutions consumer products, and you can see my lineup here with specifically the arrow pointing to the Fusion for Home. I do that because the Fusion for Home is really our flagship product for this category, if you will. But keep in mind, as I talk through this lineup, all of SureCall's boosters are sold as complete kits. That's a requirement from the FCC. So all of these are bundled with a donor antenna and a distributor antenna, all of the necessary cable and connections and power supply to plug it into the wall, and all those different things are included. And most of these kits are very kind of plug and play, take out of the box, and with minimal setup and installation required, you can have it up and ready to go. All of these as well are FCC and Industry Canada approved, and they all have blanket approval ahead of time from the individual carriers. So even though the FCC does require that you notify your carrier that you're using a booster. They're all approved ahead of time. You don't need any special carrier approval. These also have a 3-year warranty, lifetime pre- and post-sales and tech support, as well as all of these boosters boost signal for 3G, 4G, LTE, voice and data. Any phone, any carrier in the U.S. and Canada will see a noticeable benefit from one of these devices. So the first one in our lineup is the EZ4G, and you can see that this is just kind of a quick picture of the main components. And what we've done is the outside antenna has the booster built right into it, and this is kind of a signal catcher antenna, we call it. And so this is the perfect kit configuration if you have no access to the roof. If you can't get an antenna out on the roof to bring in that cellular signal, the signal catcher antenna is designed to be mounted in a window. So if you're in a dormitory or an apartment complex or something like that, where you get a little bit stronger signal if you go and stand on one leg at the window, you can mount the signal catcher antenna in that window to bring in whatever signal is available, connecting it to the built-in booster, and then from there we run the coax cable to that inside antenna that I always say looks like a giant Hershey's Kiss, and it's probably roughly about the size of a box of Kleenex or something like that if you were to turn it upright. And so it's relatively unobtrusive and isn't going to stick out like a sore thumb. That can go on a table or a desktop or a countertop or really any place that's kind of centrally located. And so simply set up the two devices, connect them with the included coax cable, plug it into the wall to power it up, and you're good to go. And this is good for right around 1,000 square feet of boosted coverage. So it's good for a real small area, maybe a basement or a small dorm or apartment, something like that. The diagram that I've included here, you can kind of see how this is laid out, but it's as we talked about, and I'm sorry, I misspoke, coverage up to 2,000 square feet, as you can see on this slide, but we always like to under-promise and over-deliver. Realistically, since we're kind of at the mercy of the signal that we're starting from, 1,000 square feet is definitely realistic, although this can perform and give you a boosted coverage area up to 2,000 square feet. That's going to depend a lot on the signal we're starting from. I would say 1,000 square feet is kind of a given, and up to 2,000 square feet under better conditions, meaning you've got a fairly decent signal at the window. But keep in mind that this is going to boost coverage for 3G, 4G, LTE, give you clearer and more reliable voice and data performance for any device. And so you can see it's just mounted in the window there, and then the inside desktop antenna is connected to it and mounted, situated on a table or a desk from there. MSRP on this one is about $299, so it's a relatively inexpensive solution to give you all the coverage you need in that smaller area. The flare is the same kind of concept. What we've done with the flare is we've kind of built in the booster into that desktop antenna. And with this one, you've actually got the outside antenna that's designed to be mounted on the roof. Price point's about the same. Coverage is a little bit larger, simply because the outside antenna, when we can get an antenna on the roof, and typically the higher the better, that's where the better signal is going to be. And so the donor antenna grabs onto that signal and brings it in, and then the booster / inside antenna really can boost that in a little bit larger area. Concept is the same, other than the outside antenna is able to be mounted on the roof. So this is a great solution if you have a small area that needs some coverage, but you do have access to the roof. The flare is definitely what I recommend. And incidentally, we're coming out with literally right around the corner, the Flare 2.0 is coming out, and it's just a little bit more streamlined and a little bit more powerful. They've tweaked some of the technologies there, and the coverage area is a lot better. So this is a really, really popular, reliable solution. Again, if you can get an antenna on the roof, this is the way to go. So, excuse me. Moving on to our flagship product, the Fusion for Home, and this is more of our kind of tried and true traditional booster setup. You've got an outside antenna that goes on the roof, you've got an inside antenna or multiple inside antennas to boost coverage in a much larger area. This is kind of a whole home or whole office booster, anything up to about 4,000 square feet. But again, it's going to decrease your dropped calls and increase data speeds and voice clarity and all those things. Like the other two that I've already talked about, this is a complete kit. There are a couple of different kit variations. We have options that come with an omnidirectional antenna. As pictured here, you can see we have kits that include a directional Yagi antenna, and that's a really powerful antenna that brings in signal for all carriers at the same time, but is designed to really zero in on the nearest cell tower as well. So if you want to specifically target Verizon or AT&T, you can zero in on that tower, and even though it's going to boost signal for everybody, it's going to bring in the carrier signal from that specific tower more fully. And so we do have a couple of different kit options, but and you'll see here, this is a kind of an example of the Yagi panel kit with the retail packaging, and everything's boxed up and included in that box. So it's a real clean look. If you've got customers that want to put this on a shelf in a electronics outlet or kind of a home improvement type of a store, this is the perfect thing to sit on the shelf. This is also the best overall value. It's only a little bit more than the other two kits that we've already talked about, except it gives you a much larger coverage area. So if you need something to boost a larger area, a whole home or a whole office, this is the way to go. Depending on the kit configuration, this one retails at anywhere from about $400 to $500, and like I said, everything's included with the kit. So you've got a couple of different lengths of coax. You've got the booster itself, and you've got the two antennas, or depending on the kit configuration, multiple inside antennas, so that you can spread those out and cover the whole home or office depending on how it's laid out. So that one's really a home run, and that particular product, we have such a small return rate on that product that we really consider it almost flawless. It just, if it's installed correctly, it works correctly 10 times out of 10. So no issues with that one. The Fusion 5S is kind of our next step up from the Fusion for Home. It's going to be a little bit larger coverage area. Typically, it's included with at least two inside antennas, and you can see in the picture here the two inside panel antennas. But same number of simultaneous users. We're going up to a coverage area up to 6,000 square feet. So it's a slight jump from the Fusion for Home if you have a little bit larger building that you're looking to boost. Other than that, it's very, very similar concept. The price point jumps up to almost double just because of the larger booster and the additional antennas that need to be included there, but also longer cable runs because we're talking about a 6,000 square foot coverage area. Other than that, it's very, very similar to the Fusion for Home. It's just a little bit bigger on the output. So that's why we say that the Fusion for Home really is that sweet spot that is the best bang for your buck, if you will, and is really going to cover the area that most people need for a full home. 4,000 square feet is a pretty large home anyway, and so for this small office, home office setting, the Fusion for Home really is the way to go. But Fusion 5S up to 6,000 square feet and right around $800 to $1,100. I'm going to pause right now for some questions before I give you the last little bit of info here at the end. Julie, I'll kick it back to you if anybody has any questions.
Thank you very much, Jason, for that presentation. And yes, I do have some questions here. First one, can you tell us a little bit about where the SureCall products are manufactured?
Yeah, absolutely. So our main headquarters are in Fremont, California, but we own a factory just outside of Hong Kong in China, and so all of our products are actually manufactured in that factory and then shipped to our main office in Fremont from just outside of Hong Kong.
Excellent. Thank you very much. In regards to the warranty on the units, can you go over the warranty information?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a 3-year manufacturer's warranty, and that covers really any issue that might go wrong with the booster. As I've stated previously, these things are fairly robust and practically bulletproof. It's hard to tell sometimes from the picture, but let me just jump into that for a quick second if that's okay. The Fusion for Home specifically and the Fusion 5S, I don't know if you could see from the image there, right there. The booster component itself is a metal casing, a metal chassis. And you can see it's got the heat sink, kind of the fins there to disperse heat out away from the major components. I don't have a picture of it in this presentation, but if you were to crack that case open, which is not an easy feat, but if you could do that, you would see that all of the interior components, all of the booster components, the circuitry for each and every frequency that we're enhancing, there are ceramic filters that go around each of those circuit boards to kind of keep the boosting of each individual frequency clean and free of disturbance or overlap or interference from one another and from any other outside signals. So it's just a very kind of an elegant, clean way to boost all of those frequencies at the same time. So these are really built very ruggedly and sturdily and built to last. It's really rare that we have any kind of an issue with, say, a bad board or circuitry overheating or burning out or causing interference with one another, which is why we offer the 3-year warranty. But just to be very candid, even past that 3-year warranty, SureCall is kind of known for going above and beyond on the customer service side. And so oftentimes our tech support team, if there is an issue and we're slightly past that 3-year warranty, we've often sent out additional components or swapped out a unit that's gone bad or this and that. But again, that's very rare. The 3-year warranty is more just to make customers feel secure and overcome that hurdle of, hey, I don't know much about this type of product. I've never tried one before. We're really trying to take away any trepidation or fear that a customer may have. So that was kind of a long answer to a short question, but I hope that makes sense.
No problem. Thank you, Jason. That was perfect. Next question here for you. Regarding the EZ4G, you mentioned 2,000 square foot is a good coverage area that it provides. Does it cover a 360-degree field? Yeah, it does. The radiation pattern on that inside antenna that's dispersing the boosted signal, it is kind of a circle that comes out from that main piece. And so if you can center it on a coffee table or someplace central, that's always best. But it really comes down to A, the signal that we're starting with, and B, the layout of the area that you're trying to boost. But yeah, good rule of thumb is if you can try to centrally locate that boosting antenna, you're always going to get the best coverage because it comes out in a radius from that. Excellent, thank you. Next question, regarding the flare. If you have 8 users, well, actually, what happens if you have more than 8 users? Does anyone get kicked out um, first in, first out? Other users can't connect anymore, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's not really a setup where it's a first on, first off, or someone's going to get kicked off or that kind of thing. Essentially, what you have is a certain amount of frequency or bandwidth, if you will, and so you're just going to notice a deterioration of the quality of the boosted signal. So you may have calls drop at that point. You may have choppy sounding calls or data speeds that slow down for a couple of those users. But keep in mind, we're talking about, really a 1 to 2,000 square foot coverage area. And we're also talking about simultaneous users, meaning, it's going to be rare that you're going to go up to 8 in a smaller area like that, 1,000 to 2,000 square feet. I've got a big family and I'm trying to picture, my house is slightly bigger than that 2,000 square feet. It's not huge, but even with my large family, it's rare that we would have 8 people all on calls or all, streaming data on our phones all at the same time. So I've never really had that come up as an issue. So the answer to the question is no, it wouldn't be a first in, first out. You'd just see a depletion of the signal, kind of here and there across the board as you increase simultaneous users. But in my experience, that's going to be really rare for that kind of a coverage area.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Next question regarding the Fusion for Home. The outdoor weatherproofing or weatherproof antenna. Can you use a different antenna for the Fusion for Home?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Fusion for Home, as I mentioned, all of these kits are bundled as complete kits because that's a requirement from the FCC. But definitely, if you have a different kind of antenna that you want to use, as long as you can get the right connector, and it's a pretty standard connector, I can't remember off the top of my head what it is, but yeah, you can swap out the outside antenna or the inside antenna on the Fusion for Home for that matter. All of our outside antennas and inside antennas are wide band, so it's basically 700 to 2700 megahertz frequency range. So if you have an outside antenna that you want to swap out that kind of meets that specification, it will work just fine.
Excellent, thank you. Another question regarding the Fusion for Home. Do surge protectors included with the kit?
Great question. The surge protector, a lightning surge protector, is something that I would definitely recommend. They're not currently included with the kit, but they are relatively inexpensive, and we will replace the gas discharge element for free for the life of that product. So I think the lightning surge protector is like $50 or $60 if I remember right, and that's something that goes between the outside antenna and the booster itself, so that if you have any kind of electrical interference or a lightning strike, then the components, the circuitry is protected. So no, it's unfortunately not included with any of the kits right now, but it's a great idea to add one on, and like I say, they're relatively inexpensive. There's a gas discharge element in that lightning surge protector that will need to be replaced if there is a lightning strike. But like I say, we replace that for free after you buy the surge protector that first time.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jason. Next question here. You mentioned a new flare to be released. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so without going into too much detail, it's basically the same exact concept and design and look and feel. It's just an upgraded version. So it's a little bit larger coverage area. It's a little bit more powerful. And as I mentioned, they've just kind of cleaned up some of the circuitry and enhanced the performance slightly without having to change the price point by much at all. So details forthcoming, but essentially, Occasionally, we'll just come out with a new and better iteration of a tried and true product. And we've done that with our Force 5, and we've done that with some of our mobile products, and now we're just doing that with the Flare. So watch for that. That should be coming soon. But other than that, yeah, it's just the same product. It's just a little bit cleaner and a little bit more powerful.
Excellent, thank you. And the one you just discussed just now, can it be used indoors, or is it for specifically indoors?
Yeah, a great question. All of these that I've talked about are specifically to boost coverage indoors. Even though you do have an outside antenna, the actual boosting that's going on is designed for an indoor application, whether it's a cabin or a home or an office. And though you can boost signal outside with these, the only antenna that is really weatherproof is the outside antenna.
Excellent, thank you. I have another question here. What outside temperature ranges does the signal booster, will the signal booster work? Or is that even relevant regarding outside temperature?
Yeah, it's a great question. Typically, the booster itself is going to be mounted indoors, even if it's in an attic. I've seen them mounted in attics before, and I would say the booster itself is definitely going to do better in a cold environment than a hot environment. But most guys will install these in a utility closet, somewhere where the temperature is going to remain fairly steady. If you do install the booster itself in an attic and plug it in up there and it gets a little bit hotter, that can reduce the life of the booster, just because, as with any electrical component, as it heats up and generates its own heat, it's better if it can stay in a kind of a relatively stable temperature environment. So just keep that in mind. I wouldn't worry about the cold, but if you have it in an attic in Las Vegas or something where it's getting real hot, you're going to notice that it's going to shorten the lifespan of that product.
Excellent, thank you. I didn't realize the temperature could possibly do that, but thank you for answering that. And Jason, thank you for answering all the questions. And thanks, everyone, for attending today. Jason, did you want to go back to something else after questions? Did you want to touch on a few things?
Yeah, thanks, Julie. Just really quick, I wanted to flash my technical support, U.S.-based tech support. There's the number. That's our toll-free number there. And I know you're going to post this video, so everyone will be able to look at that. This is our SureCall asset library, and I've got the link plugged in there. You can go there and download images, spec sheets, install diagrams, guides, really anything visually that you need. We also have a YouTube channel, SureCall University. Check that out. And there's my info. If you have any questions or need to contact me directly, that's my direct line and my direct email. So thanks as always for your time. I appreciate it, Julie and team, and look forward to next time.
Excellent, and thank you, Jason. And as we always say, if anyone has any further questions, please feel free to contact your sales rep or email us at sales@microcomtech.com. And if you wish to view the products mentioned or shown today, please visit us at www.microcom.us. And remember, like Jason said, our webinar presentation has been recorded and it will be uploaded to our Microcom YouTube channel. So if you'd like to view this again, you can certainly do that. Thank you for your time today, Jason, and your presentation. As always, very much appreciated. Everybody have a fantastic day.
Thanks again, Julie. Happy New Year, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
All right, bye.